Have you ever caught yourself staring at your hair in the mirror, feeling like it tells a story you can't fully read yet? There's something almost magnetic about the way it moves, the texture, the subtle patterns that shift with your mood or the season of your life. Hair, in ways most of us don't even notice, is a reflection of change, of growth, of patience, and sometimes of identity itself. It's not just strands and follicles. It's threads that connect the past you to the present you, quietly shaping the way you show up in the world. Sometimes it's easy to dismiss the little things, the way your hair falls differently after a restless night, or how it seems to react when life nudges you in unexpected directions. Yet these small signals carry weight. They speak to rhythm, to self-care, and even to the energy we unconsciously give ourselves. Observing these patterns can be subtle, but it can also become profoundly revealing when you start to notice. The mirror as witness. Most of us look at our hair casually, a glance in the mirror before rushing out the door. But what if that reflection is more than superficial? What if, without realizing it, your hair has been quietly chronicling your internal shifts? Maybe it's thicker in times of personal stability or more fragile when life's challenges leave their mark. Recognizing these patterns isn't vanity, it's awareness. It's the kind of noticing that grounds you in your own narrative, reminding you that self-observation is a form of respect toward yourself. When you see a strand fall differently or a wave curl in an unexpected way, it can be easy to shrug it off. But reflecting on these subtle changes allows you to see yourself as a living system, responding to environment, emotions, and lifestyle. It's a gentle form of validation, a reminder that growth doesn't always announce itself loudly. It often whispers. The hidden messages of change. Hair is one of the few elements of ourselves that grows almost entirely outside our conscious control. That makes it a fascinating mirror. When we experience internal shifts, when identity starts to flex and evolve, hair may show signs first. A new texture, a change in pattern, or even the way light reflects across it. These aren't signs of destiny or mystical forces. They're simply physical reflections of internal rhythms. Our bodies encode experience in ways we often overlook. Paying attention is a form of self-respect. Understanding hair as part of this internal dialogue teaches a larger principle. Transformation is often subtle, gradual, and embedded in everyday life. It's not always about dramatic moments. Sometimes, it's about observing the nuances, noticing the rhythm of growth, and acknowledging the ongoing evolution of who you are. Connection between self-care and identity. Many people don't realize how intertwined personal grooming, hair care, and psychological well-being really are. Hair isn't just an aesthetic feature. It's part of a feedback loop. How you care for it reflects how you care for yourself, and vice versa. When you begin to treat it with intentionality, you're practicing patience and presence. These qualities translate directly to how you navigate relationships, challenges, and personal growth. Consider the simple act of brushing or conditioning your hair. It's not just a task, it's a ritual. It's one of the ways we affirm our worth in small, tangible ways. The energy we invest in such routines often mirrors the energy we invest in understanding ourselves. Hair, in this sense, becomes a physical metaphor for internal nurturing. Patterns, cycles, and awareness. Have you noticed that hair has its own cycles? Seasonal changes, growth cycles, periods of shedding. They mirror patterns of life more than we often realize. Hair doesn't grow in a straight line. It curves, twists, and shifts direction. In that, it reflects a larger truth. Personal development isn't linear either. Progress, maturity, and self-discovery ebb and flow. Observing these cycles in hair can subtly reinforce patience, reminding us that life's rhythms are natural and continuous. By paying attention to these details, we cultivate a deeper awareness of our own patterns. This awareness isn't about judgment. It's about understanding and alignment. Hair becomes less a cosmetic concern and more a living diary of your ongoing evolution, quietly chronicling who you are becoming, subtle shifts you might miss. One of the most fascinating things about hair is how it reacts to things we don't always consciously notice. Stress, nutrition, sleep, even quiet emotional processing can leave an imprint. Perhaps you've noticed a period where your hair feels more brittle, or where it seems to gain a luster you didn't expect. These subtle shifts are not signals of fate. They are signals of your body responding to your inner environment. Observing them can become an entry point into deeper self-awareness. Think about it. When life throws challenges at you, your hair may change before other parts of you do. A new wave, a change in growth, a different texture, all of these are small indicators that your body is adjusting, recalibrating, and adapting. Paying attention without judgment helps you feel more aligned with yourself. It reinforces the idea that growth is not always loud or visible, but it is always present. Identity in small details. Hair often becomes an extension of how we express identity. The choices we make, style, length, color, texture, reflect evolving perceptions of ourselves. But beyond aesthetics, hair also records experience. The way it grows, the patterns it forms, even the moments it behaves unpredictably, these are reminders that identity is both fluid and rooted. As your sense of self changes, your hair can serve as a subtle companion to that journey. It reflects patience when growth takes longer than expected. It reflects adaptation when life demands flexibility. By observing these small details, you start to recognize that identity is not static. It's an ongoing conversation between who you were, who you are, and who you're becoming. Hair as a mirror for mindfulness. Consider the act of observing hair without any intention to change it, just noticing its texture, its movement, its color in different lights. This simple mindfulness exercise connects you to the present. It grounds you in the moment and encourages patience. In our fast-paced lives, hair becomes a tool for self-reflection. When you slow down enough to see the subtleties, you cultivate a form of awareness that extends beyond appearance. It teaches attentiveness, patience, and acceptance. Hair, in this sense, becomes a mirror not only of the body but also of the mind. It encourages an understanding that change, growth, and evolution are ongoing processes, quietly observable if we allow ourselves to pause. Growth beyond the surface. As hair grows, it reminds us that transformation often starts small. The changes may be imperceptible day to day, but over weeks and months they become undeniable. Similarly, personal growth is gradual. Each choice, each reflection, each moment of self-care compounds into a broader pattern of evolution. When you begin to see your hair as a symbol of slow, deliberate growth, it can shift the way you perceive personal development. Progress doesn't have to be dramatic to be real. Just as a strand strengthens over time, your awareness, your resilience, and your capacity for introspection deepen quietly but meaningfully. The intersection of presence and self-respect. Hair also teaches lessons about presence. It responds to care, attention, and consistency. In turn, caring for it becomes a form of honoring yourself. The more you observe and respond thoughtfully, the more you internalize the idea that self-respect is an ongoing practice. Every morning you notice how your hair behaves. Every time you treat it with intention, you reinforce a connection to yourself that extends far beyond the mirror. It becomes a practice in patience, a reflection of self-compassion, and a gentle acknowledgement that your growth, internal and external, is worthy of attention. From reflection to internal evolution. By now, the story of your hair has evolved into a metaphor for your own transformation. The small observations, the subtle changes, the cycles, the patterns, they all mirror internal evolution. Identity is no longer just about external presentation. It's about awareness, adjustment, and acceptance. When you look at your hair, you are looking at a living record of your experiences. And as you grow into awareness of your internal shifts, your hair becomes a companion rather than a mere feature. It becomes a reminder that evolution is not only about dramatic breakthroughs, but also about embracing the subtleties, the nuances that quietly shape who you are. A gentle invitation. Take a moment to notice today's small changes. Observe without judgment. Reflect on the subtle shifts and consider what they tell you about your growth and self-awareness. Hair is just one example of how the world mirrors us, gently inviting us to pause, observe, and align with ourselves more fully. In this space of reflection, growth becomes natural, awareness becomes habitual, and identity becomes a living, evolving story, one that continues to unfold quietly, patiently, and powerfully, stories carried by strands. Think for a moment about someone you've known whose hair seemed to tell a story without words. Maybe it was a friend who grew their hair long after a major life change, or a family member whose silver strands mark decades of experience and resilience. Hair often acts as a silent storyteller, recording transitions we may not even acknowledge consciously. In some cultures, hair carries profound symbolism. For many, cutting it signifies renewal. For others, letting it grow represents patience and spiritual discipline. Even if you don't follow any particular tradition, these patterns remind us that hair is not just biological, it is cultural, social, and deeply personal. Observing its evolution can connect us to broader human experiences of growth and transformation. Reflect on your own journey. Have there been moments where a haircut or a change in hairstyle coincided with an internal shift? Perhaps you didn't realize it at the time, but in retrospect, the act mirrored an inner decision to embrace a new chapter. These moments are subtle markers of identity evolution. Hair, in its quiet way, mirrors the story you live every day. The psychology of observation. From a psychological perspective, observing hair can be surprisingly grounding. Paying attention to its texture, color, and growth patterns encourages mindfulness. It anchors you in the present moment while offering insight into the rhythms of your life. Research in behavioral psychology shows that small, consistent acts of self-awareness, like grooming, noticing subtle changes, or engaging with personal appearance intentionally, reinforce self-perception and self-regulation. In other words, your hair doesn't just grow, it teaches you patience, attention, and a nuanced understanding of yourself. This is not about vanity, it's about awareness. When you notice small signals, you strengthen your connection to yourself. Hair becomes a mirror for observing subtle internal shifts that otherwise go unnoticed, and in doing so, it opens a doorway to deeper personal insight. Growth cycles and life lessons. Every strand of hair follows a growth cycle: anagen, catagen, and telogen. Each stage has its rhythm, a beginning, a transition, and a resting period. In this cycle lies a metaphor for life itself. Change is rarely instantaneous. Growth requires patience, endurance, and sometimes quiet observation. When hair sheds, it is not loss, it is preparation for renewal. When it grows thicker or stronger, it reflects nourishment and adaptation. By noticing these patterns, you begin to internalize the principle that life's natural processes mirror hair's rhythm. Patience, timing, and attentiveness are essential components of growth, whether internal or external. Everyday rituals as anchors. The routines surrounding hair, washing, conditioning, brushing, styling, are small rituals that provide stability and grounding. These actions, repeated over time, become anchors. They teach consistency, attention, and respect for yourself. Consider turning these routines into mindful practices. Rather than rushing through them mechanically, notice the texture, the temperature, the scent, the way each strand moves between your fingers. This simple act transforms a mundane habit into an intentional reflection on self-care, identity, and presence. In many ways, these small rituals mirror larger life practices. Just as you nurture your hair, you nurture your inner world. Intentionality in small things creates ripples in how you relate to larger challenges, relationships, and growth opportunities. Internal evolution reflected outward. Over time, the reflection of hair as a symbol for self-awareness extends beyond the mirror. The changes you observe and cultivate internally manifest outwardly in posture, confidence, and presence. Hair becomes an external reminder of internal progress. This is not about seeking attention from others. It is about recognizing that the world responds to the coherence between your internal and external states. Care, patience, and awareness show up subtly in how you carry yourself, how you respond to challenges, and even how you relate to the people around you. By engaging with these subtle reflections, you begin to notice that identity is not fixed. It is a living, evolving narrative, recorded in both mind and body. Hair is simply one lens through which this narrative becomes visible, reflective exercises to deepen awareness. To cultivate this awareness, try simple reflective exercises. First, spend 5 minutes observing your hair without judgment. Note its texture, color variations, movement, and response to light or touch. Consider what these subtle details might reveal about your inner state, energy, stress levels, or general vitality. Next, journal about changes you've noticed over time. Reflect on how external appearance, particularly hair, aligns with internal shifts in mindset, habits, and self-perception. Writing reinforces the connection between observation and insight, creating a feedback loop for growth. Finally, integrate a mindful ritual into your daily routine. It could be brushing, conditioning, or styling with full attention. Use it as a tool to anchor yourself in the present, notice patterns, and engage with your evolving self. Resilience in every strand. Hair, in a subtle way, mirrors resilience. Think of the strands that bend but do not break, that withstand environmental stress, temperature changes, and constant movement. There's a quiet lesson there. Resilience is not about rigidity. It's about flexibility, adaptation, and the capacity to recover while maintaining integrity. In life, resilience often shows up similarly. Challenges bend us, change our rhythm, and test our endurance, but they also provide opportunities for recalibration. Observing how hair responds to care, neglect, or stress can offer insights into how your body and mind navigate similar conditions. It is not mystical, it is practical. Each adjustment your hair makes reflects the broader principle that growth and endurance are intertwined with attentive care and patience. Historical and cultural reflections. Across time and cultures, hair has carried deep symbolic weight. In some societies, long hair signified strength and wisdom. In others, cutting hair marked a transition or a rite of passage. These practices show that humans have long recognized hair as more than an aesthetic feature. It is a tangible connection between internal identity and outward expression. Even if you don't follow these traditions, you can draw inspiration from them. Observing hair as a cultural and personal marker encourages reflection on your own evolving identity. It highlights that your growth is part of a broader human pattern, an ongoing dance between internal awareness and external expression. Consider the lessons embedded in these historical practices. They teach patience, ritual, and observation, all qualities that strengthen self-awareness. Hair becomes a bridge between individual experience and collective human understanding, grounding identity in both personal and cultural context. Subtle adaptation and awareness. Your hair's response to changes in diet, sleep, stress, and environment reflects an incredible capacity for adaptation. The body communicates with subtle signals, and hair is one of the most visible messengers. Noticing these signals encourages attentiveness to your broader physical and emotional state. For example, a period of dryness or breakage may indicate neglect in self-care or stress accumulation. A sudden shine or softness could reflect improved health, nourishment, or emotional balance. By observing without judgment, you train yourself to read subtle cues from your own body. Hair, in this sense, becomes a tool for self-awareness and personal alignment. Internal shifts made visible. One of the most profound lessons is that personal growth often manifests outwardly in ways we don't immediately recognize. Changes in posture, energy, and even hair patterns reflect internal evolution. By acknowledging these signs, you begin to connect more deeply with your own transformation. This is not about vanity. It is about understanding the coherence between internal awareness and external presence. When you notice subtle patterns in your hair, you are practicing attentiveness, patience, and self-compassion. Over time, these small observations accumulate, forming a continuous dialogue between your evolving self and your physical presence. Integrating awareness into daily life. The lessons from hair can be integrated into daily life. Begin each day with a mindful observation of your hair. Reflect on what it may be showing you about your current state, emotionally, mentally, or physically. Treat your hair with care, recognizing that the small, consistent actions you take for yourself are extensions of self-respect. In broader terms, these practices cultivate a mindset of presence. You become more attuned to subtle changes in your environment, in your body, and in your emotional state. This attentiveness fosters clarity, resilience, and intentionality, all of which enhance personal growth and self-understanding. Reflection on identity and evolution. Ultimately, hair is a symbol of your ongoing evolution. It reflects cycles of growth, adaptation, and renewal. Observing these cycles reminds you that personal development is gradual, nuanced, and often quiet. Your identity is not a fixed object. It is a living narrative, shaped by attention, care, and reflection. Through mindful observation and thoughtful reflection, hair becomes more than a physical feature. It becomes a companion in your journey of self-awareness and personal growth. It quietly records your progress, resilience, and transformation, offering insights into your evolving identity with each subtle shift. Soft invitation to awareness. Take a moment today to observe your hair, noting patterns, textures, and subtle changes. Reflect on what they may reveal about your inner growth, habits, and mindset. Consider how these small signals mirror larger patterns in your life. Hair is one of many mirrors through which you can cultivate presence, self-respect, and ongoing personal evolution, stories of growth and transformation. Think back on moments in life when subtle changes became markers of progress. Perhaps you had a friend who, after months of personal reflection, let their hair grow freely in a way that mirrored their newfound confidence. Maybe you yourself noticed a shift in texture or shine after adopting healthier habits or embracing a calmer routine. These small, almost imperceptible changes reflect more than care. They reflect alignment. Hair is like a companion on this journey. It witnesses late-night contemplations, periods of stress, quiet victories, and small acts of self-compassion. The strands that bend and recover, that flourish with consistent care, become physical records of patience and dedication. Observing these moments deepens your connection to yourself. Psychological insights on hair and identity. From a psychological perspective, the hair-body connection is fascinating. Hair responds to nutrition, stress, sleep patterns, and hormonal changes. Observing these shifts teaches attentiveness and reinforces awareness of your broader mental and physical state. Over time, this cultivates a form of mindfulness rooted not in abstract theory, but in tangible observation. In addition, hair can serve as a mirror for emotional cycles. Periods of shedding may coincide with transition or release, while thicker growth may reflect nourishment, self-care, and stability. Understanding these natural patterns reduces anxiety and strengthens patience. Growth, internal or external, is gradual, and hair quietly illustrates this truth. Reflective exercises for daily practice. To deepen this awareness, try incorporating reflective exercises into daily routines. Begin by simply observing your hair. Note its texture, movement, shine, and responsiveness to touch or light. Without judgment, consider what these details might reveal about your current emotional, mental, or physical state. Next, journal about subtle changes over time. Document what you notice, whether it's texture, growth patterns, or the way you feel when interacting with your hair. Reflection strengthens the link between observation and insight, transforming everyday routines into opportunities for self-discovery. Finally, integrate mindful rituals. Brushing, washing, or styling with full attention becomes a form of presence. Let these small, consistent actions remind you that growth and self-awareness are cultivated quietly, steadily, and intentionally. Integration into life. Hair, in its quiet way, teaches broader lessons. It reminds you that transformation is often subtle, patience is essential, and self-respect is cultivated through consistent care. Observing, reflecting, and engaging mindfully with small details fosters attentiveness, resilience, and alignment between your inner world and outer presence. Through this lens, hair is not superficial. It is a physical metaphor for personal evolution, a living record of growth, adaptability, and self-awareness. Paying attention teaches patience, attentiveness, and a deeper sense of identity. As you reflect on these insights, take a moment to notice your own hair today. Observe its texture, its rhythm, its subtle changes, and consider how it mirrors your growth, your habits, and your resilience. These small, quiet observations connect you to yourself in ways that are both grounding and transformative. If you feel inspired, share your reflections with others. Notice how the little details in your life, like hair or other personal rituals, hold deeper meaning. Engage in gentle conversation, exchange insights, and explore the ways subtle observation can deepen awareness and connection. Growth doesn't always arrive loudly. Often it whispers. And in noticing those whispers in your hair and your daily routines, you find a pathway toward patience, presence, and ongoing personal evolution.